Could learn more today about the investigation into the mysterious death of Mississippi teenager Nolan Wells.
And that investigators are aware of it. We also know that several celebrities, are now offering a $125,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest and conviction in this case. Willie?
A vacation with friends was supposed to be a memory Nolan Wells would look back on for the rest of his life. At only 18 years old, Nolan had dreams ahead of him, a promising athlete, a young man preparing for the next chapter of his life. But after a trip to Horn Island, Mississippi, everything changed. His friends came back. Nolan didn't. Days later, a search that captured national attention ended with a heartbreaking discovery. But even after Nolan was found, one question remained. What really happened during Nolan Wells' final hours? Tonight, we examine the timeline, the unanswered questions, and the investigation surrounding the death of Nolan Wells. This is Case Uncovered. Before becoming the subject of a national conversation, Nolan Wells was simply a teenager with a future. Friends and family described him as someone who was focused, athletic, and loved by those around him. At 18 years old, Nolan was beginning a new stage of his life. He had plans, he had goals, and like many young people his age, he was enjoying time with friends before returning to his responsibilities. That is why his disappearance shocked everyone who knew him. Because what started as a normal holiday celebration would become the last time Nolan would ever be seen alive. On July 4th, Nolan traveled with friends to Horn Island, a barrier island located off the Mississippi Gulf Coast. The island was crowded with people celebrating Independence Day. Boats arrived, groups gathered, music filled the area. For many visitors, it was simply a day of fun. But at some point, Nolan's plans changed. According to investigators, Nolan did not return with the group he arrived with. Instead, he remained on the island. The exact reason why Nolan stayed behind remains one of the unanswered parts of this case. The final hours of Nolan Wells' life are the center of this investigation. What happened after his friends left? Who saw Nolan? Who spoke to him? What was his condition? These are questions investigators have worked to answer. Search teams began looking for Nolan after he was reported missing. Authorities searched the island and surrounding areas. Family members waited for news. Each passing hour brought more uncertainty. For Nolan's loved ones, the hope was simple, that he would somehow be found alive. But that hope would eventually disappear. The search for Nolan involved multiple agencies and brought significant public attention. Authorities asked people who were on Horn Island that day to provide information, including photos, videos, or anything that could help establish Nolan's movements. In cases like this, small details can become important. A photograph, a conversation, a witness memory. Something that seemed insignificant at the time could become a major part of understanding what happened. Days after Nolan disappeared, search teams made a devastating discovery. Nolan Wells was found deceased near the island. The search for a missing teenager had become a death investigation. For his family, the news brought unimaginable pain, but it also brought a new stage, finding out how and why Nolan died. Whenever a young person dies unexpectedly, people naturally search for answers. Online discussions about Nolan's case grew rapidly. Many theories appeared. Some people questioned the circumstances surrounding his final hours. Others raised concerns about possible explanations. However, it is important to separate facts from speculation. At this time, Nolan's death remains under investigation. Authorities have not publicly confirmed all details surrounding what happened. Online theories should not be treated as proven facts. The truth can only come from evidence, investigators, and official findings. Nolan Wells left home expecting a vacation, a few days of memories with friends, a few days before returning to his future. Instead, his story became one filled with unanswered questions. Behind every investigation is more than a headline. There is a family waiting for answers. There are friends carrying memories. And there is a young person whose life ended far too soon. As investigators continue working to uncover the truth, one thing remains clear. Nolan Wells was someone's son, someone's friend, someone's teammate, and his story deserves to be remembered with respect. If you want more fact-based investigations like this, subscribe to Case Uncovered, because every mystery has a story, and every story deserves the truth.